Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
Oh, she was excited. Okay, so today our video is all about billionaires. I mean, that makes it sound weird, but the heroes all about the anyhow. So in this video, all of our heroes are billionaires or extremely wealthy. That's a good way to say it, right?
Sure.
Before we get started with that, Mandy,
make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, and comment. We give away free books on our channel. You definitely want to win our Road to 1K giveaway. So hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram for an extra entry. All that info is linked below.
Yeah, because if you win all those, you'll feel like a billionaire.
Yes, you will.
So this was a really popular trope there for a long time, probably around the time 50 Shades and all that stuff was coming out, because the billionaire trope. But it kind of goes in waves. It comes and goes and it comes and goes. And I've noticed recently there's been a little bit more of it. I don't know if it's going to come back, but it is fun to do sometimes. Sometimes it's kind of a little overdone, but I think we found a good mix of 10 recs that you guys hopefully will like and haven't already read. So a couple of mine are a little more popular, so we'll see.
Okay, so in those comments, tell us, do you like the billionaire trope?
Yeah, I know that I like it, but I need there to be more than just he's rich and he's just buying me yachts. So
I struggled with this trope because when I first started reading, I read a few billionaire, and then that's been about it. Like, I just don't really find myself going to this trope. I definitely read Mafia, where often they have a lot of money, but it's not really the billionaire trope.
Exactly.
So to actually find like billionaire trope was a little more challenging for me.
And I think for me, a lot of mine, it's just the side note. Oh, he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Because it's more fun when they have money to do things. I mean, it'd be a little more boring if they couldn't do anything in a book because they were budgeting that week.
Well, and there's a big difference between our hero having money and our hero being a billionaire too. So
exactly.
All right, so, Jessica.
Okay, ready?
Tell us.
So my first
Tell
one
us about that billionaire man.
Yeah, I know. My first one is probably the most popular one. I actually put off reading this one for an extremely long period of time. I didn't read it until last February, like a year ago, February. And that is the Wolf Hotel series by K.A. Tucker. And so the first book in that series is Tempt Me. I haven't read the new one that just came out within the last month. Like at the end of December. If you have read that, let me know what you think. I haven't read it yet. But this is the story of Henry and Abby. So Abby is this little girl, not little girl, but she's this girl from the small town in the South. And she breaks up with her boyfriend that she was, her fiance or whatever he was to her, and breaks up with him and wants to do something different. So she takes a job at the Wolf Hotel in Alaska. And she goes to them kind of under false pretenses. She wants to be a gardener or work the groundskeeping kind of thing, landscaping, but she really doesn't have a lot of experience. And she kind of lies about that. And she gets up there and her job isn't exactly what she was expecting. She doesn't get put on that team. And then she finagles her way into something that she really wants to do. But when she gets there, she meets Henry. She doesn't realize it's Henry until after the fact, but she does meet Henry, who is the owner. And he is our billionaire. He owns Wolf Hotels. And this is a grand opening of Wolf Hotel. And this hotel is south of Homer. It's on one of the islands that's south of Homer. I don't know if it's, I don't know which one it's on, but it sounded very familiar. I thought that K.A. Tucker did Alaska very well in this one. And that's a thing with me, Mandy. It's a thing with me. But yes. This one, they have the cabins and, maybe it was Soldovia. It just really sounded like it was Soldovia. Anyhow, they did a really good job with the islands and where she was at. Anyhow, this is their story. You have an extremely poor girl and the very wealthy man, and you have that dynamic. There's her being young and wanting to party, and him being the older, more sophisticated person. There's some angst in there. There might be other people that show up in there. But I put it off for a long time going, I don't know, I want to read that because I'd heard other people talking about it. But no, you want to read it. Trust me. It sucked me in. I listened to the audio and it was like book after book after book. Just sucked in there. So if you put it off, this is your sign to go read it. Mandy.
I'm taking my sign and I'll go read it.
Yes, okay. All right. What's your first one?
Okay, my first book is Becket Pierce by Nina Levine. This is, or Levine, it's probably Levine now that I'm saying it out loud. This is about Becket Pierce, who is a billionaire. He is been voted New York's most eligible bachelor multiple times. He's good looking, like he is everything apparently. And Jenna is being auctioned off, a date is being auctioned off for a charity type thing. And he's there and he goes ahead and bids $1 million to go on a date with her. Here's the catch. He is actually her ex-boyfriend's best friend, but now they're former best friends. And so we're like, what's going on there? Why are they no longer best friends? Well, we're going to find out as the story goes along. So Jenna is a very independent woman. She's a very strong heroine. She is not easily swayed by the fact that Becket has all this money and that he can do all these fancy things. So he actually has to really work at trying to get to know her and getting this relationship going. This is a little bit more rom-com-y. And I used to really enjoy rom-com, and I still do, but it's kind of like a rom-com movie. I have to really be in the mood for it, and then I love it. But if I just sit down to read a rom-com or watch a rom-com movie, if I'm not in the mood for it, I can kind of find them boring. So this has a little bit of the rom-com feels to it, but it's actually a lot of times in rom-coms, our heroine isn't super strong and independent, but she is in this. So this actually, I feel like, elevates this book a little bit more. So yeah. And then there's a lot of drama with what's going on with the ex and everything. So lots of stuff happens in this billionaire romance, but it starts off with the fact that he is able to bid $1 million to go out on a date with her.
Okay.
I'd go out on a date with him for $1 million, but I mean, she doesn't actually get the money. It goes to charity. So never mind.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's all these things out there about the wealthy doing really weird things and elitists and doing weird ritually thingies. And this book kind of has some of that stuff going on in it. And so that is The Initiation by Nikki Sloan. This is her first book in her Filthy Rich Americans series. And the first 3 books in the series are about the same couple. And then it goes into other couples. So the first 3 books are about Royce and Marist. So Marist belongs to a wealthy family, or so she's been brought up to believe. She's been raised in this wealthy environment. She finds out that her family is destitute. They are in ruins. Something has happened. And Royce is he's set to inherit the Hale Empire, which is like a big banking empire. And so she has to marry him. There's a contract going on there. There's an agreement, and she really doesn't want to. She doesn't want to be a part of this, but because her family is in ruins, she goes along with it. Now there is this story of what happens with the board members and the bride, and they know that, like, I think it's like 13. It's just big number. There's a group of guys go into a room, and something happens in there, and nobody knows what happens with the bride, and she's a little nervous about this. This is their initiation of the wife, and it's very, very, very interesting. So there's more to the story than that, but that is the one thing that really sticks out in this book. But this book is really good. The first 3, the 3 books in the series are the first 3 that I have read. I haven't continued on with the series yet. I'd like to finish it, but I really enjoyed this. You do have the rich young couple coming up, and you also have some of that like secret society stuff kind of going on too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My next billionaires are part of a series called Rogues by Tracy Delaney. And the first book is called Entranced. I really enjoyed the whole series. The last book fell a little bit flat for me, but I'm in the minority because I think it's one of the highest rated in the whole series. So there is an underlying kind of thing, a mystery type thing that's being solved throughout the series. So it is fairly important to read it in order so you get that whole thing. They're not super long books, so it's a pretty easy series read. It's one of the only series that I've ever read start to finish in one time without like weeks or months in between. So, Entranced is the first book, and this tells us about basically how they became billionaires. So, Rogues is the name of their company, and it's spelled based on the letters of their names. Each book features a different guy from the company. They created some apps when they were in college, and it quickly took off, and they became billionaires this way. So, oops, how did like, it just keeps shuffling
You
on me
keep doing
randomly?
that
I
today.
don't
Yeah.
know. It's the second time. So Athena had this crush on Riker. Riker is her brother's best friend. So we learn more about her brother later. But anyways, Athena and Riker sleep together when he is a little bit drunk, and he wakes up the next day and instantly regrets it because of the friendship, the company, all of that, and where they're at. And so he kind of disappears out of her life a little bit. And then he discovers her working in one of their clubs in Japan, doing things that he does not think she should be doing at this club. So he rescues her from the situation, or we might refer to it as basically forces her or kidnaps her from the situation, gets her on the private plane, and takes her. And this is kind of where their story starts. The rest of the books all have some fantastic things. One is about a girl who loses her job and ends up having to find a new job, and she bumps into this guy at a restaurant and is like embarrassed, and like a whole bunch of things happen to her, and then it turns out he's the guy that she has to interview with to be a nanny for his daughter. Like there's lots of really good storylines in this series
Okay. Well,
with
speaking
these
of being a
billionaire
nanny,
men.
I have a nanny to a billionaire for my next one.
Oh, sweet.
Perfect. That was a perfect segue. Look at that, Mandy. Look at us go. So my next book is No Small Bet by Samantha Christie. And so this is about Hawk and Addie. So Hawk is our billionaire, or at least he's extremely wealthy, and he's set to get a large chunk of his inheritance from his grandfather when his grandfather passes. And so Grandpa's still around. He's around causing havoc and meddling and everything. And Hawk finds out that he has a baby, that somebody he'd had a one night stand with got pregnant and had a baby, and she's at the hospital. Like she'd just given birth. She died. She had like an aneurysm or something, and she died while giving birth. And baby is there. And at first he denies it's even his baby. And then when they prove that, yes, it is your baby, then he doesn't even want to go get her. He leaves her at the hospital for 2 weeks. Grandpa gets mad, comes in and says, look, here's the deal. I will double your inheritance if you go and get your damn baby. Go get her. You're going to keep her for a year. You're only allowed to have one nanny, not two. One, you're supposed to spend this much time with her. You need to be changing this many diapers throughout the day. You need to do this many feeds. Like he sets up all these things. You have to keep her for a year before you even just think about giving her up for adoption, because that's what he wants to do. And because we keep our families, is basically what he's saying. But you're a capable man. It's time to stop playing around and go be a grown-up. And but if he doesn't do it, then he loses his inheritance. And so he goes and gets the baby, and he hires a nanny. And that is where we see Addie come in. So Addie made some really stupid choices when she was young. She was in a car accident. She is an amputee. She's lost part of her leg, but she doesn't have a lot of money. And so she can't afford, she still has like the original leg that she was fitted with, the original prosthetic, and like she'll make like really quick movements where she'll turn really quickly and it'll fall off and things like that. It like kind of brings the comedy to it. It's kind of sad because he doesn't want to name the baby at first, and so she just calls her, she makes up things for her, and she tries out names and stuff on the baby and tries to get him to do it. He just does not want to bond with this baby, and it's really sad. But it's a really good book. It was in my top 23 books for 2023. I really enjoyed this one, but he is our billionaire.
All right. My next one you did not like. Was very disappointed in you. I found it hilarious. It's a
I know what it
rom-com,
is.
so you have to enjoy rom-coms. One thing I noticed when you actually are looking for true billionaire-centered books, most of them fall in that rom-com area.
or
Or nanny.
Insidious. So.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's more like they own this club and like type
Yes,
thing.
and that's just not
Yeah.
my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more challenging of a trope, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my next recommendation, totally loved it. Hilarious, I thought. It's called My Brother's Billionaire Best Friend. This is by Max Monroe. Like I said, total rom-com. Mabel, or maybe as she's called, has been crushing on Milo, her brother's best friend, for years. And she's recently come back from college. She's helping her family at the flower shop. Milo comes in and doesn't recognize her at all. And she decides to take his phone number from the records, totally breaking some laws probably there, puts it in her phone and thinks maybe one of these days I'll get up the nerve to like text him. She ends up needing to have her wisdom teeth out. All of this happens like pretty fast at the beginning of the book. And her dad takes her to this place to get her wisdom teeth out. She comes out, she's totally loopy, all, like drugged out type thing. And we've all seen those like YouTube videos and stuff of like funny things that people say. Well, this takes it in a whole different direction because she decides to text Milo. And she texts him like she's living like in the oh my gosh, like way back a whole century, and it's like thou type texting, and she asks him to deflower her, please. I found the text messages hilarious. She wakes up the next day and wonders why Milo has texted her, and she's like, this is so bizarre. And then she realizes the text messages that she sent him, which starts, us on the course of the book. I found it hilarious. I know Jessica didn't really care for it, but Jessica doesn't really like rom-com. So you have to take that with a grain of salt in that one. So if you like rom-com, check it out. Because it was
Jessica
funny.
doesn't like to laugh or cry, apparently, so.
No, you're weird.
Grace McGinty makes me laugh.
I don't know. Anyway.
I have more of a dry sense of humor. Okay, so.
Well, you've just never liked rom-coms. You don't even really care for rom-com movies, so.
No. Not really. I may have some, depends. Okay, so my next book is another one that's kind of popular, and that's The Wrong Bride by Katerina Mora. There's a reason why I love this book. Really do. I've read a couple of hers that haven't sit right with me, but this one was like, ooh, good. Okay, so this is about Raven and Aries. So they have been friends for a very long time. They both come from wealthy families. But Aries he owns a production company that produces movies and stuff, and he is engaged to Raven's sister. Now Raven is a model, and she has just started her own clothing line, and she's trying to make a name for herself. So Aries has been engaged to the sister for quite a while, and it like never ends because they've had the date to walk down the aisle several different times, and she either stands him up or breaks, like says that let's move the date out, or she's like, I'm not ready right now. This happens a lot. Like they keep pushing the date out and things happen. And this is an arrangement between the families. Originally it was supposed to be Raven and Aries, but when Aries started dating Raven's sister, the grandma said, you know what, you guys are in love, so we're gonna let you two do this thing. Okay, we're gonna let you guys get married. Now I'll change the contract. Well, the sister does it again. They've got the date going, and the sister, who is an actress, decides that she wants to put her career before her marriage, and she doesn't want to marry Aries right now, and she wants to postpone the wedding date again. And grandma says, you either do it or Raven's going to do it. Now Raven has been in love with Aries forever. They're like best friends. They do things together all the time. And of course Aries has feelings for her that he does not acknowledge, but he kind of does. And so when they keep going forward with planning the wedding, and the sister keeps telling Raven, don't worry, they'll postpone it. They've done it a billion different times. I'm just going to stick to my guns on this one. Well, the wedding day comes and sister does not show up. And so grandma says, okay, Raven, you're up. Get your ass in the dress. And she marries Aries. And then of course the sister comes back and is like, I can't believe you married my husband. Well, dude, you were warned over and over again. And so this is their story of the two of them. I love it so much. It was really, really, really good. And I believe, could be wrong, I believe Teddy Hamilton does the audiobook narration. Just saying. If it wasn't Teddy, it was one of the other good ones. But yeah, I think he did, though. He does a lot of her audiobook narrations.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My next one is Stuck Up Suit by Vi Keeland and Penelope Ward. This is about Soraya and Graham. And she sees Graham on the train and he's yelling on the phone. And she's like, wow, like, what a stuck up, like, why would you treat people this way type thing? And he accidentally forgets his phone on the train. So she picks it up and she snoops in it and decides to have a little fun with it. And then she decides, oh, I should probably return it. So she takes the phone to there, and she wants to actually talk to him to return it. And he doesn't want to see her. And that kind of really irritates her. So she takes a picture of her cleavage and her cleavage and like a leg pic as well, and leaves it on the phone and leaves it with the secretary and leaves. And she texts the picture to his phone, basically. So then he has a way to communicate with her, which makes him very intrigued about who is this really ballsy girl that would do this. And that is what kind of sets them on the motion of knowing each other. So billionaire is because he is like the billionaire. He owns the company. He is really used to being the man in charge of everything, but in turn, that's really kind of taken a toll on his social life and some of his social skills. Fantastic read. I usually always like Vi Keeland and Penelope Ward. They're great palate cleansers. And that kind of is where I think Billionaire is a little bit, for me anyways. And for your dogs. They agree.
I think the mailman might be outside. Okay. So for my last book, I have Shaw by BJ Alpha. So this is the first book in her Storm Enterprises series. These are self-made billionaires or self-made wealthy men in this series. So this one is about Emmy and Shaw. And so these two meet in Vegas one night. Emmy is a mafia princess. She's a virgin. She is betrothed to this Bratva dude that she's going to have to marry. And she sees Shaw at a casino one night, and they, see each other from across the room, and they like what they see. And then they end up running into each other, literally, and then end up somehow in his hotel room where things get down and dirty. And then she sneaks off. They don't exchange names, and she sneaks off before the morning. And then a few weeks later, or a few months later, Shaw's sitting in his office, and these guys, these big mafia guys, bust in. And that is when we first meet Luca, who is he's one of the capos, and he is actually the hero from Veiled in Hate, which is the book that I absolutely love by BJ. But he is the brother to Emmy. And he's like, dude, you knocked up my sister, and now you're going to marry her. End of story. And he's like, who are you? What are you talking about? He has no clue. And it turned out that Emmy, who he didn't know is his sister, is this guy's sister, and he got her pregnant in Vegas. So this is a forced marriage where she's already pregnant. And Luca, when he comes in and forces these two to get married, like, he takes over. He's like, I know you're a billionaire. I know you have money, but you're going to live in my house that I set aside for you because there's protection for my sister there. And you're going to do as I say. and you're going like he's just oh man, the things he sets up. He is just cold-hearted and ruthless. But anyhow, loved Shaw. Shaw is a great read.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My next one is Dr. Heartless by Jay Shaman. And this is about Ellie and Landon. This is part of the Boston Billionaire Bachelors series. So if you really like your billionaires, you can read this whole series. Sorry, I don't know what's happening to me. So Elle decides to divorce her very famous pro golfer husband. He's been very verbally abusive, and she realizes she's not like she's just become a shell of a person and she's not living the life that she wants. So she decides to divorce him. She moves away, she moves far away to a town where her friend is able to get her a job at a school. And she is at a hotel one night at the hotel bar having a drink, and this guy walks in. And this is Landon. He is a billionaire, and he is very well known because of his billionaire status and often photographed by tabloids, that sort of thing. He has a twin brother, Luca, who's usually the one out being kind of like the playboy. And when he walks in, he gets mistaken right away as Luca. And he just decides, you know what, my daughter's with somebody else tonight. He's a single dad. And that's really been his main focus. And so he just decides, I'm just going to pretend to be Luca and let loose and have fun one night. So when he gets to the bar, the bartender actually thinks he's Luca too. So that starts off his introductions with Elle. They go up to her hotel room. They have a one night stand, which they both agreed to. And he leaves and she ends up going back to her house. Well, at her house, she discovers that her neighbor is actually Luca, but Luca is not Luca, it's Landon. So then she's like, wow, you didn't even have the decency to give me the right name. And that kind of starts off this situation between the two of them living next door. And if you're wondering, I was kind of wondering this, like, how does she end up living next door to a billionaire? If she's fleeing from her husband, she does get some money from the divorce, but also he lives in a home that his wife wanted. And there's a reason he wants to stay there. And so he's got some baggage he's bringing to the table too. And then to complicate the whole situation, she is teaching at the middle school and his daughter is in her class.
Okay.
So, billionaires.
Billionaires. All right, guys. So that is it. Those are our billionaire recs for you.
All right. In those comments, let us know, how do you like this trope? And do you have a favorite billionaire rec that we didn't mention? If so, drop that in the comments as well. Make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.